Being in your heart.
Yes. Ooh. Being. There's so many breaking that down. What does being mean? What does in your heart mean? Like there's so much to break down. So Moira, handing it over to you. What is being? First, I'm actually going to say, before we go in your heart, what does being mean?
The exercise that we just went through about that 0 to 10, I think 0 is the epitome of just being.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Yay, yay, yay. Welcome to today's podcast episode, ladies, gentlemen, children, animals, anyone, spiritual beings.
Any beings, any and all beings.
Yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh, today's a goodie. So today, it's just a standard thing we say because it is always a goodie. Today, this is Debz and Moira at our Deliciously Motivated Mindset podcast.
Yeah.
Got that out. Welcome, Moira. Welcome, listeners.
Thank you, dear Debz. Glad to be here.
Oh, yay. Yes, this is a great one. Because little do people know that we've probably talked for 2 hours. Have we maybe nearly?
Yeah,
Hour
pretty
and a half
much.
of solving the universe.
Hour and a half anyway.
And then we're like, what are we talking about today? And we look at it and we go, oh, yeah, that's exactly what we've been talking about. That's been clinches.
I know.
But first, before we get into it, even though you know what it is, everybody, and we know, I would love you to rate yourself. And when I say rate yourself, just give yourself a number of 0 to 10, which is the number between 9 and 11, and 10 being absolutely chaotic. If you're frazzled, chaotic, you feel like you've gone through the mincer and come out the other side and you're in parts, that's a 10.
Yep.
If you feel like you've eaten healthy, you feel like you're a little bit more relaxed, your mind is carefree, you might be a 3, you might be a 4. If you feel you're completely centered and balanced and neutral and nothing's running you, nothing's controlling you, you feel like you've got all the time in the world to sit and listen to this podcast and you're looking forward to it, that's a 0,
yep.
I would say.
Feeling pretty calm and zened out at 0.
Yeah, neutral. Perfect. Zen at 0.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to know where our listeners are at. And we're going to encourage you to do this again at the end of the podcast so you can just have a guided realization of if you've moved in the numbers either up or down. This is Deborah, because I think Deborah's gone down from numbers before.
But we also, this is a tool that we encourage our listeners to, we're doing this with you, but we encourage you to use this as a tool throughout your day too, right?
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful because even if you just go, oh my God, this is shite's happening and I'm just keep getting this and I keep getting this, then just stop and pause and rate yourself and go, okay, where am I sitting?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sitting at a 6. Well, no wonder. Right. What can I do to shift it?
Yeah, exactly.
And just even that, like just that alone is just acknowledging where you're at.
It's a beautiful shifting.
Powerful.
Shifting the gears.
Yeah, definitely. So, Moira, what number are you right now?
Well, I was just thinking that as you were setting us up for that, because, and we're going to, I'm going to rate myself where I was when we first came on, because like you said, we've been talking for an hour and a half before we hit record.
When I first came on.
And then where I am now. So I would say when I came on, I was probably around a 3.54. And we had a number of things to
Same.
go
Same.
through, but in our conversations, which we absolutely love doing, we bounce off each other. And like the example you just said about if become aware that you're at 6, sometimes it's enough to just go, what on earth's going on around me? Oh, I'm at a 6. And then just breathe and get into the moment. So I think that it's just, and truth is, we go up and down those numbers every day, all day, in and out.
You cannot be a 0 all the time, and you cannot be a 10 all the time.
No, exactly.
But
it's by staying present and having the awareness around it, that makes you the navigator of it, as opposed to it happening and you being frantically wondering why stuff's happening, or as Deb just said, why is shite happening to me?
Yeah. Why me again?
But then, in regards to this topic is so close to my heart. I'm at a 0 for the topic. How about you, my dear?
So what are you starting at now? So you were 3.54. So where would you be now, though?
0
after. Oh,
0.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear that part. I zoned out going,
She's
what number
zen.
am I?
She's so zero zen.
I was actually thinking I was a 3.54, probably more 4. I was like, oh, I'm probably a 4. Maybe I'm a 3.5 when we first started talking.
Right.
And then when you said it, I was like, oh, yeah, typical. Yeah, I'm going to say,
but of course.
I'm going to say a 0 because I feel, and a 0 to me is I don't have to worry about what's coming next.
Yes.
And I don't have to worry about all the things I've got to do. And so that's a 0, just sitting present, breathing and feeling.
Yep.
Will be it. So I'm going to say I'm a 0. And the topic is freaking cool. And that is definitely a 0 for me too. So our topic is
being in your heart.
Yes. Ooh. Being. There's so many, breaking that down. What does being mean? What does in your heart mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so much to break down. So Moira, handing it over to you. What is being? First, I'm actually going to say, before we go in your heart, what does being mean?
The exercise that we just went through about that 0 to 10, I think 0 is the epitome of just being. Right. Yeah. And you just gave a really beautiful example of that, in that when we're sitting at 0, we know we maybe have a lot of things to do. The to-do list is still sitting there. The projects, the deadlines, the client calls, the things that we have to do for self-care and et cetera, they're all still there. But there's a sense of ease and spaciousness and worthiness and flow. That to me is all about being, right? Because I know that I need to do, so I can still be a doer or get into the doing. But when I come at it from a sense of, first of all, from my being, then things start to flow. And it's like, then there's a realization of what's mine to deal with and what's what can I ask somebody else to do, or where's the priority, where's right. So, and those awarenesses come when we are really being in the moment.
And being, I would say another word for being is present.
Yes.
And it's not the gift giving present, it's the presence.
Well, it could be the gift giving present because you're being present,
being
or the present,
of just being. And it's sitting still, and that's it. And that's being. And it's a great one. And just even the being in your heart, like the being, just be. People say to you, just be. Like, be what? What do you want me to be? Well, I don't want you to be anything. Just be. Just sit. Just be you.
Yeah.
Be.
Do you know an analogy for that one of my mentors described is, you know what I mean by a ceiling fan? The ceiling fans that we have that got the blades on them.
That I have to have, that I've got currently here in New Zealand because it's hot. In my office. Yeah, I know those ones. Yeah.
We have them too. They're just not running at the moment.
They're just blowing the snow from one spot to the other.
But the thing is if you think of that as an analogy, that for you in your being, you're at the very center of that fan. But if you get further away and chaos happens or worries happen or stresses or whatever, you're actually going along the blade of the fan. And if you get to the very outside, it's like a huge vortex of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah, that stuff takes the top of your finger off.
Yeah, so don't go there. But it's just a case of being aware, because awareness can hold that and be aware of, where am I on my own vortex? Am I at center? When I'm being present, then I'm at the center. And that actually also reminds me of one of my favorite songs to describe this is by Belinda Carlisle. And the line in this song is, you can dance in a hurricane, but only if you're standing in the eye.
What song is that?
It's
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that's a great one. That's exactly it. You can.
And that's the same, it's the same symbology is about the ceiling fan, is that if you're sitting right in that center knob part of that ceiling fan, then you can be there. But if you're being carried away in the vortex of the blades of the fan, then you can't. Yeah, you're away from your being, right?
Well, who would have thought that being, just the word being, has such significance, and how it means. I would love people to put what being means for them.
Yeah,
let us know.
I'd love to see
Let us know.
Yeah,
because that will be if people are on the same thought pattern as us or not, or if it means something different, educate us on what you'd
love to hear that,
because that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So then the next is in your heart.
In your heart.
And you can't say in your heart. You have to, it just has a in your heart. It's a lovely little flow, romantic beauty thing.
Well,
in your
that's where
heart.
Unconditional love comes from your heart, right?
Yeah.
To me, being in your heart, and it's really funny because I was just having this conversation this morning where I was kind of putting out a wee bit of a loving challenge, and basically saying, can you create space for yourself to ensure that every thought, every statement or conversation, everything that you say through your mouth, or every thought that you entertain in your heart, in your head, can you run it through your heart first before it gets expressed?
Oh, that's a great one. Oh, you'd be silent a lot more. I'd be silent a lot more.
Well, isn't it? Because that's what I was saying, is that it only takes a split second. And Debz, you know this, I love to just pause and put my hand over my heart.
I'm so grateful you taught me that, because that is a gift on its own. That
it is
just help me often when shite goes cray cray.
Exactly.
When I start slipping down from the 0 to the 10. Just stop and breathe.
Stop and breathe and just go, oh, am I coming from here? Are my beliefs, is my mindset, is my pattern, is my habits, are the words that I'm using to describe myself and my situation in this location or where I'm at, is it love-based? Does it lift me? Does it make my heart sing? Does it bring me joy, happiness? Right? And it's just,
does it feel real?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so now I'm just going, my conversations I had with people this morning, conversations I had with people last night. See, and then I'm slipping from my 0 back down to a 1 or 2.
Oh no. So
which is perfect.
It is perfect, but this is something that I think is a really important piece to remember and get clarity on, though, too, is that an invitation to make sure that every thought and every verbal exchange or conversation that you have is coming through your heart before you express it, don't shame yourself if it is not. It's just to step into an awareness first and not then look at, oh, how was I yesterday? How was I an hour ago? Right? It doesn't matter, because by being in your heart means being here and now. It doesn't matter what happened in the past to get you here.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a big piece on the idea of being in your heart too.
Well, it's judgment too, because when you're actually being in your heart, you're not judging others or yourself, and there is no shame or guilt.
That's
You're
right.
just being. You just are. We talked about a snow globe. We often talk about our little snow globe, and I say I live in a glitter bubble, and Moira lives in her snow globe with glitter and unicorns.
Glitter and unicorns and butterflies. And lots of purple. And lots of purple.
I was just going to say, and everything has to be purple inside there as well. Yeah. Her snow is purple. Yeah, and thinking about that, and when you're living in that I see that as being in your heart.
Absolutely.
But it can also be ego-driven if you sit in there and you don't see the awareness of what's actually going on around you.
That's a really good point, because you don't want to be in a snow globe with obscured glass, right? You still want to be able to see out into the realness of what's going on around you, but you don't want to feed or get caught into things that are maybe ego-driven or negative in nature. Or I was talking about rumors and gossip, and talking about what you don't want to have happen. It's almost like it's creating an obscuring of the glass around your own snow globe, right?
Yeah, and you have to be, I think you can't be blind. You have to be aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
You just don't have to jump on that train, or you don't have to get into that drama or any of those things, but you do have to be aware. And because if you're not aware, I mean, I love my bubble, don't get me wrong, and my bubble protects me from a lot, but also, it can build and destroy you, but because it has a bit of both. But if you're not aware to what's going on, you're not educating yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. But when you're being in your heart, and it's not judging someone else for not being in their heart, they may think they're in their heart, like they may think they're doing it, and it's your judgment of how being in your heart, my quotation fingers are in the air, of how you think it should be. This is what being in your heart means. This is what it looks like. Well, they're not being in their heart. They're speaking their truth, but that's not what I want to hear. But you'll notice that when everyone's in their heart, you don't have that conflict.
No, you don't. And the thing is that you may witness other people coming from their heart that it's a different definition, or different way of being, or different way of expression. But it doesn't mean that you would then go and judge it, because it's just, oh, that's an interesting viewpoint.
And it's not it's not attaching to you, it's not running you, it's not controlling you, it's not making you sit in any emotion, it's not throwing your emotion high or low. It's just like, oh wow, what a lovely way to look at that. Gosh, I hadn't thought about that.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Exactly. So there's no attachment. It's just yeah. Because that's the thing, is that when we can get more into this, even when we make the solid commitment and choice to ourselves to stay in our heart, be in our heart, there's a lot of people that will choose not to. They'll choose, no, they have to stay in their mind, or they'll choose something, they need to be told something, or they adhere to something that's not heart-based.
Well, if you said to me 20 years ago, you need to be in your heart more, I would say, piss off. What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. So yes, 20 years ago I would have said that, but I understand what being in your heart is now. But if someone said that to me 20 years ago, I would have gone, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like,
Right.
go away. I'm
Right.
on a mission. This is where I'm going. You're either on my train or you're not. And I still have that. But there's definitely the awareness of what being in your heart means.
Right. But that's a beautiful illustration, because the awareness, and I can think of times too of being aware that I was in a different, like very much the in your head and get out of my way. I've got things to get done, and it has to get done this, and this, and this.
Which people call the masculine brain.
It's the masculine brain. Sometimes it can be a fear-driven, because you've given away your power to something or someone else. And so then you're running because, it's like running to survive, right? So there's a survival mechanism in there too. Each one of us is doing the best we can with what we know and witness and what we believe for where we're at. And so to your point is that we are always evolving, even if we don't recognize it ourselves. That we can come to a point in our own evolution where we go, gosh, this time last year, I was speaking like this, or I was doing this, or I was believing this about myself and the world around me. Now look how I see things, through different eyes or through different filters, or more aligned with the truth of my own heart. So it's about coming home to the truth of your own heart too, right?
Absolutely. But also I just want to add that where you were last year, if you feel you've slipped from a 0 to a 10 last year, and you've gone backwards, you see yourself as going backwards, just stop and get present and look at the lessons that you've learned. Yeah. I'm not talking about, I'm never going to do that again.
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
Because that's because that's definitely lesson, but that's your ego driven again, and that's not being in your heart. It's actually what lessons did I learn, and what's the beauty of that I learned. And you may sit and just go, there is none, but when you pull through that, but that's exactly it. So we've all evolved. Mm-hmm. But you only hear what you're prepared to hear at that time. Yeah. And I know would have been 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was working for a company, and when I left, one of the ladies who just bought me a separate gift, and actually I've got it sitting in front of me, was a book called The Art of Happiness. Okay. And it's a beautiful about book. The Dalai Lama. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a handbook for living. And it was just, I was like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to read that. That's just stupid. Oh my God, thank you very much. Thanks, that's lovely. And she said, you'll just find so much joy out of that. And I was like, yeah, okay, right, yeah, it's great. Yeah, no, I'm never going to read that. And just the thought of picking it up now is exciting. Mm-hmm. But back then I was like, oh my God, are you serious? You want me to what? Who is this Dalai Lama? Like whatever, right. Yeah. But so you'll only hear the message when you're ready. That's right. Is the other thing. And it's okay. But at the time I did have judgment on her. I wasn't being in my heart going, oh my gosh, what an amazing gift. Mm-hmm. And looking back on it now, everybody put their money in to give you a gift, and everyone, had their own little say and everything like that. But she didn't have a say in anything. But she gave me a special gift, took me aside to do that. So she was being in her heart and sharing something that she thought was incredibly valuable for me. I went, oh my God, you've got to be joking. Thank you very much. Didn't see it as that. And now, as we're talking about being in your heart, I'm like, oh my gosh, she gave me this amazing gift. I chose not to see it at that time. And that's okay. That's okay, because I've got it now and I can read it now or not read it now. Right. I would encourage you to think of it in one more step further, though, is that your heart did actually recognize that was a beautiful gift, but you were still in your head
instilling a sense of judgment. And that's okay.
I would have said that. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's okay.
definitely.
But the fact that you still have it sitting there says that deep down you always knew. And it's just got to sit there until
Actually,
the rest
you're bloody
of you
right.
catches up.
Because that's 20 years ago or so.
Right.
And I've hoarded that book from one house to the other house to the other house, although that's the only houses I've moved, 3 houses in 20 years. You're right. You're right. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because there are certain books that I have on my bookshelf that they've probably been there for 30 odd years. And it's like, I know exactly where they are. And there's pieces out of them that I gravitate towards. And it's like they become part of me. That book became part of you. It just, like I said, it just took a wee bit more of an evolution for you to then say, look, I feel so happy about picking up this book and reading it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I possibly wouldn't have listened to it, read it back then.
And even if you did,
right.
even if you did, the words probably wouldn't have landed.
And now, even if I did read it, they would have been different to what I'm reading now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't we talk about the Secret recently? We talked about that.
Yes.
And and the book is different to the DVD.
Yes,
we talked about that.
Yes,
and so if you watch that now, I would pick up something, or read it now, pick up something very, very different to what I picked up when I first watched that. And there was something, a rabbit hole. There was one.
What the bleep?
Yeah, that I couldn't get into that. I would be curious to watch it now. That I was left with, what? Huh? No flippant idea when that first came out. Actually, I wonder. I'm going to go back and watch that. Probably got it on DVD somewhere in my office. Yeah, that one. I was like, whoa, this is over my head. And I was sitting with the girlfriend, and she was like, this is amazing. Can you get this? And I'm like, huh? Is there not chip and dip and some Coke I need to have a drink of? Or like, I need to go to the toilet. I need to clean my teeth. I need to fidget. I need to avoid this whole
That's
thing.
Funny. I remember that. I remember the movie coming out too. And like you say, it would be kind of cool to watch it again. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would have been one of those.
Of course, I would have sat with you and I would have gone,
like,
do you want me to make you a cheese platter?
Amazing.
Should I? You're like, oh, shut up. What's amazing of it? Well, I don't even understand. I've missed it. And then I go, oh, I can't watch it now because I've missed the first 10 minutes. Like, but yeah, look, watching that now, I'm pretty confident if I start watching it and I go, Moira, 10 minutes in, I'm still fidgeting. Be interesting to see where you are, because it's just another confirmation that we evolve and another reminder of, and there's this, I'm just thinking of the kids programs we grew up with, Jumbo, was it Dumbo, wasn't it?
That was Dumbo.
Dumbo, just those things. And if you watch those now as an adult, it'll be very different. It's like Simpsons. I watched Simpsons, the program Simpsons, I don't know, about 5 years ago, and I was left with, oh, they can't say this. Oh my God, they can't say this. They can't say this. But the young kids around are not even picking up half of what you're picking up.
Right.
And it's just really interesting to see where you're at and what awareness you take in.
And that's a really good
Perfect
point.
Timing.
It's a really good point to always remember that. I don't know who said this. I'm so bad for this that I'll think of things that people say and I have no idea who it was that said it.
No, you're really good at that. That's me who does that. Because when you said before, one of my mentors, I thought, oh, she's going to quote something like she always does, and she knows who it is and what book it's in, and it's on page this.
Not always. No, but the quote that I'm thinking of is this. It's that we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. Right? So
that's being in your heart, isn't it?
Totally is. It totally is. And so how close are you into your heart and being at peace and being present? Because then you're going to see things very differently as to when you're like, oh, for God's sake, let me out of this. Let me out of this. Run off this crazy train. If you looked at the same thing from that perspective, you're going to see a completely different thing, right? You see it through different colored lenses.
Yeah, it's I'm going to go back and start looking at those things in my world I'm going to watch Where the Bleep. I know where it is. I can see it on my bookshelf.
Good.
I can literally see it on my bookshelf. And that's even weirder that I've even kept that. Like, that's one thing I even kept it. That's even weirder after going, there's no way I'm never going to watch this again.
Maybe that's another illustration of some part of you knew you're just not quite ready yet, dear. Right?
Yeah, I'm so wasn't ready for that. I remember. And she was like, can you just sit down? I'm like, cross my legs, uncross my legs. What the hell? She was frantically writing notes. And I'm like, you're weird. You're like weird. This is what are you writing notes on? Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, well, I just thought about that other book, The Present, by Spencer Johnson. And he's the one who does Do You Move Your Cheese, or Who Cut the Cheese? Not Cut the Cheese.
Don't cut the cheese. Who Moved My Cheese,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
But The Present is a great one, and it's about a young kid who doesn't understand presents. And that's exactly it, you know, and when's the gift coming? When's the gift coming? And the gift is just being present.
Right.
And being in your heart is the most amazing gift you can give others, but actually what you can give to yourself.
Primarily you. And that's the key piece. This is so important. And collectively, we've not been educated for this, that we have to put our own loving us as priority number one.
Oh my God, there's so many people I talk to who go, oh, I need to put my husband first, or I need to put this first, or
I need to put the kids first, or I need to look after these people.
Yeah,
first.
and it's like, no. Yeah, that's it. That is a because if you don't, and we've talked, I'm sure you and I have talked about this before, but if you, they say you can't share your glass if it's only half full.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want to share my glass, but really I'm not being in my heart at that time. But you do have to look after yourself, because how can you help somebody else, or even just yourself, if you're not fully functioning?
That's right.
You know, when people say go home to rest, or you hear your body saying, oh my God, I'm yawning so much, I need to have change my energy, or change my state, or walk outside, or take a big glass of water, or go to bed, or whatever, you've got to listen to that stuff, because that's
absolutely do. That's your own intelligence trying to guide you.
Absolutely. And that's the reward. The reward is when you when you listen to that intuition or that guidance, and you reward yourself with listening to it and taking action on it. That's where you get more and more that comes aware of that. And that's being in your heart. There's no ego driven. There's no what if. It just is. It's just being.
It's just being. But it's also there's a sense of trust when you're being in your heart, because you may not, your mind might jump into, oh, but what's going to happen? How are you going to handle this next week? Or how are you going to speak to that person? Or what are you going to do when this happens? Or let's say this bill comes in, how are you going to pay it? But being in your heart actually starts to exercise a sense of resilience, to say, no matter what happens, it's all good. I can deal with it. I'll recognize the solutions. I'll attract the answers, and be there with my heart.
That trust is a big one. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
When you described all that, that was just screaming trust with glitter all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust and knowing.
Yeah. And that's the other part, is that I sometimes have conversations, or people come to me and tell me, they can't trust this person, or they don't trust that group, or they don't trust this belief system over here. I believe that all of that is an indicator to the lack of self-trust. Because trust is actually an inside job. And what I mean by that is that if I am being in my heart and being trusting, it doesn't mean that magically everything else is rebalanced, but I can deal with it. And I'm not going to feed something that detracts or that takes me out of my heart energy, right? I
think And when we talk about trust, I think about past stories or past chapters in your book, or anything that or somebody's thrown a story at you and you've attached it to your storybook, and that trust is going back into that time and just see, is it a story or is it the truth?
Yeah.
And if it's a story, deal with that trust. Go back and look at, there's lots of ways to do it. How did it serve me? How did it serve others? What's the gratitude I got out of that? How can I move forward? Because the moment you let those stories go and know that, recognize them as a story, it's a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story, and that's it. Like, even just recognizing it's a story, that's where you're being in your heart. And It's not that fear or judgment or shame or guilt
shame.
or any of that stuff. It's just being.
Being when we're being compassionate, it's okay if you got attached to a story at some point. You can
it's that judgment, isn't it?
Brush it off. See?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing too, is that when we're being in our heart, we can reset our languaging and our thinking patterns into, would I talk to or describe somebody I loved like this? And that can actually short circuit that propensity to jump into telling a story or getting caught by a pattern that doesn't serve you.
My mind's racing now, thinking of conversations of all sorts, thinking of conversations. So it's, there's a lot going on there. Yeah. Just, you can't, I think the other thing is you can't muck it up. I just really want, and I say that from my heart and from experience, from all the coaching work I've done with people, all my life experience, anything I've seen, heard, witnessed, whatever. You can't stuff it up.
No.
Like you have these expectations, and yes, you get burnt, and then you just pick up and you carry on, and you've got to learn from whatever it is, but you can't stuff it up. And having that trust, belief, whatever you want to put it, that's what allows you to move forward.
Absolutely.
Because if you're not moving forward, you're just going to get stagnant. But if you're not moving forward, it's okay. Just put a time frame on it.
Yeah.
And then move forward when you're ready. But recognize it. That's like the biggest thing, is recognizing it.
Recognizing it, and then also thinking of sometimes, and this, I've witnessed this in some of my client sessions and students, and is that sometimes we can have the propensity to look too far ahead, look at a step or a project or a way that we'd like to be or achieve, and look at too much of it. And then we can kind of freeze ourselves, not take any action. And if that's what's happening, when you realize I'm not moving forward, that's okay. Number one, it's okay. But then number two, can I look at what's the baby step I can take? What small piece toward that end goal, or that intention, or that achievement I would really like to do?
Step 2, reach out to Moira or Debz.
Exactly. Exactly. And trust in yourself, right? So trust means sometimes you do have to enroll the help of a coach or a mentor, or just somebody to bounce these ideas. So not to get stuck and think that you have to sit and work it all out. Being in your heart means you're going to be loving with yourself, right?
Yeah, be gentle. Be gentle on yourself. Be gentle on those around you. Being in your heart is the opposite of ego-driven, because we know when we're ego-driven, shite gets done, but it doesn't get done the way it could be done.
And it gets done with a lot more effort than if you're sitting in your heart, because things flow so much easier and so much more uplifting for you and for everyone around you.
Definitely.
Well, this has been a goodie.
This has been a great one. I'm pondering. Oh shoot, she's going to ask me a number.
Uh-oh. Yes. So, dear listeners, as we did at the beginning, we're going to check in and encourage you, if you remember what number you gave yourself at the beginning of our conversation, and then where are you now as we've checked into this whole idea of being in your heart. And so, dear Deb, where are you?
I'm going to say a 1.
Zero. You were at 0
Yeah.
at the beginning. Yeah.
And I'm going to say a 1 now because I've got pondering going on.
Okay.
And I'm going to ponder, and I'm just going to be.
Good. Being in pondering to then step back into your heart.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to say a 1. I am going to say a 1. Or maybe a 0.5, actually. Because I just feel even as soon as I said that, I just went, that's not being.
No.
You're not being. So I'm going to say 0.5.
So, and for me, I'm at a 0 still. I love this kind of dialogue, and I can be in it. The interesting dance for you is the pondering part. That's okay. What comes to mind as you're saying that, though, and you mentioned it at the beginning, that it's by just being aware where you are.
Yeah.
So just help shift, and that's just to create the awareness and then shift out of it.
I laugh because I just had a moment, but yes, definitely. It's just I won't be sitting in it. I won't be sitting in it and allowing it to run my day. It's just gonna flow. It's gonna flow. I know it's gonna flow through me, but my mind is thinking things.
Yes. All right, dear listeners, we hope this has supported you. And as always, we're here for you. We'd love to hear how this landed for you. We'd also love to hear from you about any topics that you would like us to sit and riff about, because we'd love to have some interaction with you on that. So let us know.
Otherwise, you're just going to make us like create our own topics and see how they go.
Which we love doing
anyway. Thank you,
anyway.
everybody. Thank you for partaking.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you. Much love. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.